I would be concerned with this German back three against pace, because I think with Harry Kane floating around as he does, and he hasn't had a great tournament thus far, and service hasn't been brilliant, but when he floats around and maybe tries to drag Hummels or whoever it is out of position, then you've got Sterling and Shaka or Sancho or whoever it is. You've got them making those little out-to-end runs in between the three centre. I mean, Scotland played three centre-halves in my time a lot, but it was a very compact three centre-halves because the centre-halves basically didn't want to get caught out in the wider positions. Now you see a lot of the teams, the wider centre-halves will play a little wider and the wing-backs will push on. That's the kind of nature of the game these days. And that can leave centre-halves exposed to pace, and particularly ones that are not quick. And certainly Rudiger's quite quick, Ginter's not bad, but Hummels is not. And that could be a key area. So I think it was Archie or Jan touched on it earlier. Will Jogi Löw change the shape at this point? Is he worried about being exposed as a back line to England's pace? And they have got pacey players from sort of midfield to front. And that's going to be a big issue, I think, for Germany, depending on who England select. Look, we can talk about Sancho all we want, and I agree. But what Gareth Southgate will say, well, look, we can discuss players that are not playing, but we have had success to this point. The criticism will come if he leaves one or two out and they lose to Germany. They'll say you're way too conservative. But at the moment, it's hard to criticise results. You can talk about performances, but results for England have been good enough thus far.
Because to go back to your point about Germany, Stevie Nicol said that Germany aren't going to win anything with Mats Hummels in the back line, and I wonder what Age Fjortoft thinks of that.
German championship, but it's a fair point to say that Mats Hummels is struggling with his quickness, but he is a very intelligent player. Maybe when they took Mats Hummels back, one of the reasons Joachim Löw thinking that I need to have two defenders in and around him to cover him. But in the second half, now against Hungary, he changed to a back four, and I expect that to happen again. What is right, and what I agree with Stevie Nicol, is that he's involved in so many goals a game, and he even does that when he plays for Dortmund. But because he's so brilliant defender going forward with his outside passes and all that kind of thing, there is not a lot of analysing in and around that. But he's a great defender who can't defend. I think that is my definition of Mats Hummels.
Oh, great. Archie, I'd like to ask you about Mats Hummels, because obviously there was a lot made of the returns of the veterans, of Müller and Mats Hummels. What's been the reaction to his performances in Germany?
To be honest, there was a greater focus after last night's performance on the poor display of Leroy Sané. That has dominated the headlines a lot more, whether it was the way that he was struggling to make any impact going forward or that he was not defending well enough for the second Hungarian goal. I'd pose the question, why is Leroy Sané the closest player to Andreas Schäfer when Hungary score that second goal? Because something's not going right if that's happening 15 seconds after after Hungary have kicked off again. And similarly, there's something wrong in the defensive organisation when Kai Havertz is one of your players making sure to try and block a break against Portugal. So I think that Hummels is perhaps an issue, but also your system has to protect your players. It needs to play to the strengths of your players. And if you're bringing back Mats Hummels and Thomas Müller, you need to play them in a system which gets the best out of them. And I think that is why there has been this huge clamour in Germany for that back four, for the 4-2-3-1 that Germany have generally found success with, because it's a system that all of these players are much more used to. But this is perhaps an ace up his sleeve that Joachim Löw has. No one really knows what he's going to do against England, because he could then surprise everybody. But if he goes with the back three, as has been said here, I think that if England don't have much of the ball, that's an advantage with the kind of pace they've got going forward. And that's an advantage, especially given the areas on the pitch that Gnabry and Sané have been getting on the ball. Those are not the same areas that they get on the ball for Bayern Munich. And that's a key difference.
Nedum, what have you made of Germany's defence so far?
It's obviously not been great. I think as a back three, sometimes you think back three, solid, five and all sorts, but then some of the goals that they've conceded, they've been exceptionally poor. You've seen them getting hit on the break and you think to yourself, well, why is that the case? Is that a set-up issue? Is that a desire issue? And it ultimately hasn't been great. And as Archie said there, when Havertz was the last man defending on a break from when Portugal were going back there, I'm thinking, firstly, why is he on the halfway line? And secondly, why is nobody else coming into the screen from a German standpoint? If you're going to leave yourself open at the back like that, you're going to be punished. But the system itself, in theory, it should work, but they've not looked great. And having watched that Germany game yesterday, the thing that surprised me the most was the fact that, firstly, they weren't creating a lot of chances, but in terms of Hungary, they look comfortable and they look like maybe they might nick another goal. And that's not what any of us expected from a team who, have ambitions of winning the whole tournament. So they have the experience, but with the system in play right now, something just seems a little bit off with it.
I'm trying to remember who. Maybe the boys can help me. Somebody can help me out here. I'm trying to remember in the game so far. It's been Toni Kroos and Ilkay Gundogan in front of in that midfield, and Gundogan had an astonishing season at Man City. He scored more goals than he's ever in the league for any club, I believe, and that's his strongest facet is going forward. And Toni Kroos, even at his pomp, was never a great protector of everybody. He's a fantastic player. But he's a wonderful passer of the ball. He's never been a great protector in terms of he's not. You wouldn't describe him as a Fernandinho or a Rodri or an N'Golo Kante. He's a completely different kind of player. So that also exposes, particularly when you're dominating a game and you're on the front foot, if you don't have a player with that mindset, thinking, right, I've got, we've been caught out, so I need to make sure I'm protecting. Toni Kroos and Ilkay Gundogan are thinking about where they can play those little balls and how they can affect the game going forward. So that just adds to the pressure on the back line. Great players, but not great defensive midfielders to protect. So I'm like Archie. We have no idea what he's going to do, the manager, tomorrow, but I think he's going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat if they're going to get a result. And
yet we've still made you all give a prediction on this game between England
well, it's a guessing game, isn't
it? This is what we've got then. Jan's gone for Germany with a 1-0 win. Archie says Germany 5-1. Archie. Craig Burley, Germany 2-1. Shaka's gone for a 1-0. Nedum for a draw. And England to win on penalty.
Well, this is a first because England never win on penalties.
Are you mad?
Hold on, was you born in 1990?
I was around in 2018 when they were in Russia and they went through on something on penalty.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.